Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Shadow of Kyoshi chapter analysis video. This one is going to be for chapter 14, which is called The Message. So the last chapter ended up with Kyoshi chanting along with Nyahata to get into some sort of a communication or vision with Kuruk, and this chapter immediately opens up with it's a vision that Kyoshi is seeing. So she's not going to be able to communicate with Kuruk here, but this vision is showing her stuff about Kuruk. So for us, this is meant to be viewed as basically the first part of Kuruk's backstory. It doesn't give us or Kyoshi any of the absolute key details about Kuruk that we're looking for in relation to Glowworm, but it gives us an insight into the character that we only know previously for his flaws, his negligence as the Avatar, his vices. We pretty much actually don't know a lot about the guy himself outside of okay, very skilled bender, something about him being an amazing hunter from I think the previous book, and that's about it. This is where we actually get insight into, okay, he's actually this very interesting character even from an earlier age, and I think it immediately makes you sort of reevaluate him as an Avatar. So it's a great way to start off. The ice of Agna Kela was so clear and pure. Kyoshi instinctively rubbed her arms to warm them. And she knew exactly what she was looking at. She had the certainty of being here before. So this is her first time really getting that sense of she has lived previous lives. Finally sort of seeing memories of a past Avatar and realizing these are hers basically to a degree. And then we get into the actual, backstory here. Kuruk sat at a great feast. It's revealed that this feast is to celebrate him being sort of announced, revealed to the world as the Avatar. People from all the nations are here to celebrate this. And he's asking them, he wants to know, how do you know I was the Avatar? What tests did you perform to figure this out? What were the signs? He hadn't ever bent the other elements until they told him to try, confident in his success. Weeks ago he'd been astonished when the glowing crystal they gave him rose into the air under his command. The sages of the Northern Water Tribe only gave him mischievous grins in response and assured him the unrevealed procedure had gone flawlessly, an auspicious sign for his era. So this gives us an insight into how the water tribes locate the next Avatar. So they obviously saw something in Kuruk and had him do the test on this glowing crystal, and the fact that he was able to make it levitate to them is viewed as this proof that he is the Avatar. And then after that they're like, try bending other elements, and he was able to do it. So it speaks to his skill straight away, that kind of like Korra, who was also sort of able to just generate the element without much of the skill behind it, but just generate the element in her early years. The same was kind of true of Kuruk. Once they figured out it might be him, they just told him to try, and he kind of could. Really, really good setup for a sort of prodigy here. But yeah, the glowing crystal, and the fact that it astonishes Kuruk himself, to me suggests that okay, so it's not some sort of a thing where he was clear it was water. So is it just the test that it's some sort of crystal of earth, and the fact that a waterbender could do it is proof that he was the Avatar? Or is it some sort of combination ice and earth crystal, and it's proof that he's a double bender because of that? I don't know, it's interesting, especially the way they give mischievous grins, and they're just oh yeah, this procedure is unrevealed, we're not going to mention anything about it, but we know for sure it's you. I kind of like in a way that they don't fully reveal that to us, but it's just something about a glowing crystal. But that's just something to think about. Next up, what do we get here? Yeah, so she tries to communicate. Of course, she's like Kuruk, but of course she realizes it's a vision. It's just they're images. She's just seeing memories. She can't talk or communicate in these. She can't alter what happens in these. So we cut then to Kuruk's training as the Avatar. So of course for a water Avatar, first up is Earth. So earthbending came so easy for him, too easy. The rocks danced at his command, but his form was improper. His wizened master from Ba Sing Se grunted, too loose and wiggly, not enough stamping around. he wasn't adopting the attitude of an earthbender. Kuruk struggled with why the influence of his waterbending style was considered a detriment to the other forms of bending. The elements, they were all connected. One flowed into the next, sharing the same energy. He wished his older teachers could see that, to be of one mind instead of four. Wasn't that the strength of the Avatar? To constantly switch your identity back and forth. Waterbender, earthbender, waterbender, firebender, airbender. The strain would tear you apart. I really like this approach from Kuruk here, in that he's being criticized during his earthbending training for not fully adapting to, like, as a waterbender, immediately just becoming an earthbender, having the exact set-in-stone style, changing his full philosophy to adapt to the element. He can bend, and clearly is a master and incredibly skilled, and is being mainly criticized for the form of his technique and not necessarily, I suppose, the results of it. But his view on it is more that, like, as the Avatar, a bender of all four elements, why shouldn't the Avatar just be, like, one style, using the four, rather than four separate styles that you switch between? And he notes the idea of, like, to do it in such a rigid way like that. I'm doing water bending now, and let me switch over my complete style to be a firebender. Why can't it just be one style that it involves and flows between everything? That's very like Order of the White Lotus. That's sort of Iroh wisdom. We always view the most powerful benders in the franchise as being the ones who can incorporate aspects of other elements into their own bending style, even if they can only bend one element. That's the significance of, like, lightning regeneration coming from Iroh studying water benders. Clearly, Boomy has a little bit of, you can see airbending sort of style almost in his earthbending, and so on. Zhang as being a more sort of defensive firebender. Very, very interesting stuff there. That Kuruk is really thinking about the philosophy of the style the Avatar should have. And they are setting up Kuruk to be basically one of, if not the best benders we've ever seen from an Avatar. In that, like, we knew he was talented from before, but you'd always associate, Kyoshi is the most powerful of the Avatars that we've seen pretty much so far. But I think this book really gets across the idea that Kuruk, with his philosophy in his youth, has to be viewed as being right up there. Absolutely a challenge for Kyoshi and so on. And, potentially maybe even better because of how much he devotes himself to this. But we'll continue on. So that's his philosophy. Surprisingly, there was only one person who agreed with him, and it was a younger member of the Earth Kingdom delegation, some prissy kid from the Ganjin tribe. So it's Janju. This is the introduction of Janju. He is the first of his companions that he meets and becomes friends with, and I just talk about him here. An uptight boy. There were clear differences in their personalities, but because of their similar approach, philosophy to bending, they kind of came together. And especially, they note here, like, it took a surprisingly long time for the two of them to sit down at a Pai Sho table together. By the time the first game concluded, Kuruk's bond with Janju was absolute. They're together throughout Kuruk's mastery of fire and air. Best to simply comply than fight tradition along every single front. So he went from feeling that, like, this is the way I want to do things in my training, but okay, to be the Avatar, to get through the training as effectively as possible, fine, I'll do things their way. I'll stick to their rigid views on this element. It has to be done this way, and expand out from there. So really, really interesting thing. And they're like, okay, but why is Kuruk, who's known to be a little bit of a rebel, being so good during his training? And they just note that it's like, there was a reason for this, though. A reward that lay at the end of the elemental cycle, a sky bison. You could have all sorts of adventures once you had a flying mount at your disposal. The world opened up, unconstrained by distance. And so we note here that in his airbending training, he'd even invented a technique that could have earned him arrows, a way to create a cushion of air under a heavy object so it could be slid and moved over a floor with ease. So this is the technique that Jinpa demonstrated earlier on and told Kyoshi that it was invented by Kuruk, and she just said, a useless technique that has no practical use. Of course Kuruk, someone like Kuruk, would invent it. But now we find out there was a use behind the technique, and the monks clearly were impressed by it to the point where, like, if he was an actual air nomad, he probably would have got tattoos over something like this, given that you have to invent your own technique to, of course, get the tattoos. So I really like that contrast of just Kyoshi now sees, that's what the technique is for. And that's, I guess, explains how they moved the statues around at the temples. So all pretty nice stuff. So they immediately cut to, like, okay, they want to test out a sky bison, so they're going to get one, ride around on it, go for a joyride on a sky bison. But a junior monk steps up to stop them and sort of airbends them against the wall, and takes them in front of everyone else to reveal what they've done. So idiots, they were told. Every avatar normally did a bit of independent traveling. They could have simply waited for their chance. Now on their first trip, they were going to get chaperoned into oblivion. But their punishment was actually that Kelsang, this is Kelsang, the junior monk, he has to go with them. So he joins their group at this point, thinking that they're just bison thieves, but eventually they do sort of come together. There's some fun stuff here. They were shocked to learn he was the same age as them. His hulking size and enviable beard made him seem older. It was a good punishment. The Avatar had this Kelsang fellow pegged for a no-fun grump, and immediately seeing Kelsang in the vision, this hits Kyoshi so hard that she's seeing him with Karuk, who she has issues with that, but with Jeonju as well, the person who later on would kill him. It's such a struggle for her to see that, they were friends. It's fine that they were close back then, but because she's more familiar with recently his death at the hands of Jeonju, it's so difficult for her to view this happening. She couldn't warn him of the monster sliding into his life in the disguise of a friend. She couldn't change his fate. She was watching a wave crash inexorably against the shore, where it would break up and dissipate, irrecoverable. So then we get to introducing Heiran. The last member of their group would be an adult, a Seinaka man. The most powerful of the clan heads in the Fire Nation thought twice about trifling with a Seinaka, but as fate would have it, the man got sick, so a younger relative was sent in his stead. And Karuk made sure to make this as permanent as possible, because once he saw that it was Heiran. So this is how Heiran came to join the group. And then, the next section is very fun. When he gets introduced to her at that First Lord's Harbour, he immediately goes over, and he's so attracted to her, he has to make his feelings clear. So he tries to immediately start a relationship with her. But it says here, it took less than a minute for Heiran to coldly proclaim she wasn't interested in a relationship with the Avatar. And them seeing Karuk crash and burn is the main point at which Jeonju and Kelsang begin to get actually closer together, seeing just their friend just like absolutely mess up here very badly. But with the two of them laughing, they miss a little interaction that happens after the immediate public rejection, and that is Heiran giving Karuk a slow blink, a smirk, and a little comment that romance was forbidden while on duty. So, a tease that there was actually something there between the two of them, that, Karuk, writing that poem to her, obviously the timing was terrible, but that it comes from a place of him knowing that there was like an attraction between the two of them, but just stuff got in the way before they could actually get together as a couple, I suppose. Then, of course, Kelsang has a bison. This is their group. Finally, freedom. His training is over. But the second they're in the air, he surprises his companions by asking for more bending training. Why? They were young, not established experts in their disciplines. And Karuk was a bending prodigy, already a master of all four elements. What did he have need for further practice? And this furthers that idea of his philosophy to all of this. And they go in to explain that he uses a Paisho analogy of like what separates the master genius players from the players who have played for a very long time, are good but aren't that level. And he basically says the difference is that the geniuses simply played more games than their lower ranked counterparts did. They never stopped learning. And that's the approach Karuk is taking in his bending. He's never going to stop learning from anyone he encounters. Even if he is technically a master and better than them at the element, He values someone different giving their approach, their style, and learning from that. And that's very, very interesting. He notes that constant challenge was the key to growth. That is like Kuruk's philosophy in a way. And it helps to reframe some of the stuff that we already know about Kuruk. Of like, we knew that like he was a bit of a show-off, is the way he's presented. That he goes out to places, challenges benders to sort of fights to prove he's better. But more than that being the sort of arrogant thing of him showing off his skill, it's now revealed that another angle to have on that is that he purposely sought out other powerful benders to, yes, spar with them. And he would beat them, I guess. But he would learn from them because they were different. And that's why he always challenged himself to constantly improve. Which gives you that sense for like, he has to be viewed as being one of the most skilled, benders we've ever seen. Because he's probably, faced so many benders that he has experienced so many different styles. He's probably one of the most skilled and practiced combatants out there, which is the perfect setup for the second stage of the backstory, with the idea of like, spirits are powerful. You have to be a powerful bender to defeat a spirit, and Kuruk is known to have battled spirits in the past, so when's that coming into play? And so they just point out here that this was the value of this group. They all practiced together with each other, identifying and correcting and destroying each other's habits until it felt like the four of them could speak without speaking, their spirits merging into a single pool. He knew his companions had the potential for greatness, unorthodoxy, far beyond what their elders expected or even wanted of them. And this is proven when Kelsang meditates into the spirit world. And Kuruk's philosophy is sort of proven correct here, whereas the elders at the temples are kind of like, they're questioning Kelsang's account of being in the spirit world because they view it as being some other way. And that's what he says. That's exactly it. The instant the facts disagreed with their preconceived notions, people lost their minds. That settled it. Kelsang was going to guide the avatar into the spirit world. So this is more or less where we end this bit of backstory here. He just takes a look at Kelsang preparing to meditate into the spirit world, takes a look back at Jeonju and Heiran behind them watching on. His friends, he loved them so much. Life was good, it was simply good, and the world was a wonderful place. So the setup here is that that's the core of the good section of Kuruk's life, and when we get the second part of the backstory later on in the book, that's when things take a darker turn. That's when we see the Kuruk that sort of he becomes known for, the Kuruk that Kyoshi has only heard about. That's when that side of things comes out. But even that is not what you think. It's not that he just was negligent after this for some reason. I think this chapter was almost by itself is enough to clarify very clearly that what's been presented with the character so far is nowhere near the full scope of what the character is actually like. But then she comes out of the vision, and of course she is shaken by what she's seen, mainly because she's got this vision of Kelsang, seeing him when he was younger, happy with Kuruk, Heiran, and Jeonju, so different than the way it is now, when she sees Kelsang, Jeonju are dead. Jeonju is the one who killed Kelsang. Heiran has just recovered from nearly being killed. How fractured this group got compared to what she just saw. It takes a toll on her here, basically. Nyahata is like, your spirit left your body. And she notes that there was admiration in his voice. Like, he is honestly impressed at the results that she has gotten from just doing this for the first time. He's super impressed. He asks, did you succeed? Did you find out about Glowworm? No. Only Kuruk's memories, and they weren't the ones I was looking for. I didn't learn anything. Only how much easier his life was than mine. So Nyata's just like, again, more of this, hatred of Kuruk. We're done here. And she's like, is there any other way we can do this? Another technique? And he's like, no, I think this is your limit. You might be good at meditation, but you will never talk to Kuruk or any of your other predecessors in the Avatar cycle if you cling to your resentments this hard. Kuruk's flaws aren't keeping you from what you want. Yours are. You'll have to find another way to rescue your boy from Father Glowworm's clutches. And he just notes, You can have your past or you can have your future, not both. We can try again once you understand this. And he does praise her, you know, you do have the potential for great spiritual discipline. You must have had an amazing teacher, obviously, Lao Ge. The fact that she has succeeded at more or less knowing the technique to enhance her lifespan, make herself immortal if she wanted to, basically, live as long as he has. So if she can do that, of course, the core of how to commune with the past avatars is something she could do. And this is the point here that Nyahata is like, you have the skills at meditation to do this. He notes here, where is it? I could feel the veil between worlds thinning around your shoulders, Avatar. The spirits of the island came through and spoke to you tonight. It's just a matter of if you can decipher their hidden messages. So she has the spiritual connection. It's just her view on Karuk that is preventing her from being able to talk to him. And that's something she's going to have to get over, to just accept that Karuk is the person she needs to talk to, and that he's not just what she's heard, in the same way that Yang Chen is not just the person that she's heard about. And until she does that, she's not going to get the information she needs, because Karuk is the only person who has information on Glowworm. It's great setup of like, Kyoshi will have to develop past this to get what she needs to progress. And they walk outside, they note the melon yam field again. Did the spirits do this? This message, it's pretty clear, this message, if it's from the spirits. And it's noted here that a message in the melon yams, written in the ones that have now turned sickly yellow, rotten, compared to the normal ones which are green. It spells out the sentence, Hail Fire Lord Cheijin. So the implication at the end of the chapter is that they see this message, giant in a field of melon yams, spelling out Hail Fire Lord Cheijin in a Kyoshi clan territory field. So, you know, double bad stuff here. One, the crops haven't been great during the era of Zoryu, especially for the Kyoshi clan. And now seemingly the Sowon clan has specifically like poisoned select parts of their fields to make this message in everything, highlighting that they want Cheijin to be the Fire Lord. So it's just this crazy situation of like, wow, how do you even get rid of a giant message like that? Because the only way to do it would be to destroy all of the crops. Because if you just take out the poisoned ones or rotten ones, you still leave the message there in what's not there. So, you know, this message just stuck there. It's an amazing kind of message in terms of you can't just cover this up. And then the other thing is that, like, it's implied that, like, sort of Kyoshi and Nyahata, because they're up high, can see this very clearly. Once the Kyoshi clan see this, this is going to mean war. They're not going to care about the kind of no Agni Kais allowed. If they see this, this is going to burst the dam. This is going to cause actual conflict between the two clans. So this looks like a Sowon clan, you know, masterstroke here to get what they want. But there's more to it, of course, as we'll see as we go through the chapters. But and again, I like that was set up. They noted the melon yam fields as they were going up, and on their way down, they look at them and they see this message. So yeah, we just had the backstory stuff. Now we're getting back into the political plot. Very interesting. So yeah, great chapter there. The first section of Karuk's backstory of him in the happier days, and especially I think it's mainly that philosophy that he has on the elements of just the avatar should have a style that is all four as one rather than four separate styles. That's what Avatar, when it comes to talking about balance, has always been about. The four nations shouldn't just remain four. They should more be blended together. Lightning redirection from Iroh is a technique that incorporates waterbending stuff into a firebending technique with the redirection approach. Even someone like, say, Zhang having a more defensive firebending style, using walls is like a little bit of a like earthbending sort of approach almost to it. And so on. We've seen this across some of the better benders. Like even Boomy, to a degree, you would say, has a sort of almost kind of almost like an airbender type spirit in a way approach to some of his earthbending. It's very creative compared to a lot of earthbenders we've seen. So they are some of the more skilled benders of the world, and they are that way because they're not so rigid. There's value in doing your element the right way. But for the Avatar, Karuk sort of maybe sees the flaws of when he wants to use multiple elements, always having to switch to a different form, a different philosophy at the same time. Whereas if he just develops this like all-in-one style and learns from everyone he encounters, he can create the perfect bending style. He can be the best bender in the world. And I think that's very, very interesting, and that explains how he becomes so good at Pai Sho. He just played a lot, so much so that he knows every strategy, and it's not just with him. It's not just that he's a raw prodigy and doesn't do much training and challenges everyone and wins. No, he learns from everyone. He challenges people to train, and learning from even his young companions at the time, who he was arguably better at, but they had a different approach. Just finding out that Karuk had such a unique philosophy that is very in line with what we view as being the style of like the true master benders of the world is great to hear. It's great to see, and it's like, yeah, like that is something to praise Karuk for, and I really like it. You know, it's just a basic introduction to the team, but like meeting Jeonju first, and then Kelsang catching the two of them kind of messing up, trying to joyride a bison, and then Heiran's arrival into the team being almost like an accident, but a happy accident, and the group bringing the best out of each other until events turn in the second half of the backstory. So, great chapter. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this first hint of Karuk backstory, along with a political message that is going to bring conflict coming up as well. So let me know your thoughts on the chapter, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.